Take quarters here. Take quarters.
How's everybody doing?
All right.
How are you?
Pretty good.
You ready? You're queuing some up back there. You ready?
That's all good? All right.
Good. All right. So first of all, appreciate everyone being here. Appreciate y'all taking the time. I'll start out by saying how disappointed we are in the result of the season. A lot of people put a lot of work into this, from the players, the coaches, the entire staff, everybody in the building. A lot of people put in a lot of work, and so when this is what the result is, nobody's happy about that. Most importantly, we're disappointed for our fans. We know all the support that they give us, and we know you deserve better. It's our job to get right into this offseason process and look at every aspect of everything that affects football and make sure we're doing everything we can do this offseason to put us in position next year to win more football games and putting this team in position to be a consistent winner. We understand at this point the words don't mean anything. We have to speak with our results, and that's what we're going to do. That said, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Yeah, Terry, what is, as y'all move forward, how important will it be to resolve Kirk Cousins' status with the team with the leg switch at the position in the season?
Yes, so we gave Kirk Cousins 2 years guaranteed. So when you do that, you expect to get high-level quarterback play for 2 seasons. We understand that didn't happen. Nobody was happy to make the switch at that time, and we wanted to again to get that high-level quarterback play for 2 seasons. So now what happens is we had to accelerate that plan and go to Mike earlier, and yet we're the allocation at the quarterback position, the cap allocation is we're 8th in the league. That's what we had planned for. Where Kirk is the starter, he's not the starter anymore, but we're very comfortable moving forward with him as a backup. He's handled himself extremely well through the entire process from start to finish, from when he came in the building. And, in these adverse situations, that's when you show your true character. Kirk's a great man, and he's been great support for Mike, a great teammate, great support for everybody in the building. So we're very comfortable moving forward with him as the backup.
So this is different from when Matt Ryan wanted to leave after the Deshaun Watson deal, because Kirk said he thinks he didn't forget how to play quarterback.
Well, every situation is different, not to rehash anything else, but specifically regarding Kirk, again, we're very comfortable moving forward with him as the backup.
Does he want to be a backup? Has he made that clear to you?
Those are, all those discussions, we'll keep those discussions private as we move forward. But I just want to be clear that we're very comfortable with him being the backup here.
Are you open to trading him if calls come?
We'll take those things as they come. Now that's a specific, with that mark, everyone would have to be good with it, right? From his camp, his supporters, Mike McCartney, Kirk Cousins, us, the other team. Like, there's a lot of layers to that, and we'll take those as they come.
So you would be open to adjusting that no trade clause, like if that's something you wanted?
Well, that's, again, those, Allison, private discussions that we'll have as they come.
Do you regret maybe making a big decision and move like this when it came to Kirk Cousins and the contract and everything? Like, what did you learn from this?
Yeah, we look at every transaction that we make, and we're always looking to learn and adjust the process as we go. If you go back to at that point, the reasons we made the decision, we know the cost of doing business at the quarterback position, but like we said, Allison, you want to get high-level quarterback play for 2 seasons, and we didn't get that, and so we totally understand that.
Terry, for the sake of transparency, you guys said way back when in the offseason when you got Kirk and you got Penix that you were going after the Green Bay Packers model, that you wanted to give Penix the time to develop. I don't want to speak for you or assume, but yeah. Going off of that, ideally you probably didn't want to turn to Penix as early as you did this year. Is that safe to say? And along with that, when you guys had the discussions of going after Kirk and Penix, what was the ideal situation you guys wanted to happen? Was it Kirk to play a year, 2 years, and then transition? Just for the sake of the fans and the transparency of how you wanted this situation to be resolved. Yeah,
that's a great question. A lot of great thoughts. When we went into last offseason, and we had to fix the quarterback position. And so if you look at when we're making a decision at that time, we want to bring in a high-level quarterback that can help us to win right now. And you look at Kirk Cousins and what he had done prior to the injury. You look at his numbers and his production and the things he was, the decision-making, the accuracy, all those areas. We believe that he could be an effective quarterback for us right now. Again, when you give someone 2 years guaranteed, you want to get that level of production for 2 years. And we saw it in some games this year. I mean, he broke a record on Thursday night, and so he did some really good things, and yet it wasn't sustained. But the mindset was, now that could fix the quarterback position for right now, but then in drafting the right player, then you can fix the quarterback position for the next 10-plus years. And if you look historically, first-round quarterbacks, it's really hard for those guys, and when they have to play earlier and when they don't have to get the chance to sit behind some, not just anybody, but someone like Kirk Cousins, so they can learn all the nuances and the details of being a true pro. So having both of them in the building, we believe that that truly could, for right now and for the future, and yet we understand that it's not, it was accelerated. The plan was for Kirk to play longer and for Mike to sit longer, and we had to accelerate that. So that wasn't the goal, but again, we understand the disappointment that we had to make the change when we did, but we're comfortable where we are at this point.
Terry. Go ahead.
Terry, you've had a few years to reshape this Atlanta Falcons roster since you were hired in 21. What do you consider the most important milestones in this team's rebuilding process? How do you evaluate the progress in making this team a consistent NFC contender?
So you're asking, ask me one more time. I'm sorry, I'm kind of exactly what you want me to tell you.
So in short, what would you consider the most significant milestone in the rebuilding process thus far, and how do you evaluate your progress in making this team a more
Got it. Yes, sir. Got it. Well, first of all, I'm going to be real clear that we haven't done a good enough job. I haven't done a good enough job. We haven't won enough. And so when you haven't won enough, it starts with me. That's my job, to make this team a consistent winner. And I haven't done a good enough job. It's my job to help everyone in the building be as effective as they can in their roles so we can win more games. We haven't done a good enough job of that. There clearly are things that we're proud of. You look at offensively, and the percentage of, I want to say it's 70% of our offensive production have come from players below the age of 25. That's the best in the league. And so there's a lot of good things to point to. We always invest up front, and we invest in the offensive line, whether we're extending players, bringing players back, or drafting players, O-line, D-line. And so we know that in the trenches. So there's a lot of, we look at the vision of this team and what we want it to be. There are positives in a number of areas, but ultimately we haven't won enough, and that's what we have to do. So we have to look at every aspect of everything we're doing. Everybody has to take a humble approach, because the most important stat is wins and losses, so we can point to anything positive that we want to. But at the end of the day, we have to win more games.
Acknowledging that you haven't done a good enough job, you haven't won enough, are you concerned about your job security?
No, I'm not, Mark. I just don't think, and that's not coming from an arrogant place, I just don't think about that. Sure. You know, I don't think, I believe my job is to come in every day and be as effective as I can. I don't think about my mortality or my job security and things like that and worry about. I worry more about doing the very best I can. I know it's an honor and a privilege to be in this role, and I just want to come in and do the very best I can to affect winning, and that's what I think about.
Again, I mean, 4 years as a GM without a playoff appearance, typically, that's the only reason why I asked the question.
I totally understand. I understand the question. Yep.
You worked so hard getting out of the cap situation when it came to Matt Ryan. Now you're kind of there again with Kirk Cousins in a different way. I know you say you're comfortable, but I guess, like, how comfortable can you be when you know that you kind of have this cap money just sitting there and the issues that brings?
Well, it's what we planned for. You know, completely different situations, but I know Kirk's the backup now, but we plan to have that cap allocation at that position with him as the starter. And so now it's been flipped, and now he's the backup. And obviously Mike is the starter now, but we believe we're going to get high-level quarterback play. So completely different situations, I would say, Allison, but we're comfortable where we are, and now we have to make sure that we can be creative and find ways to build this team the right way.
Terry, where do priorities fall when you begin to start thinking about how you make your defense more consistent, maybe more mirror what your offense does, and with that complementary football?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Arch, good question. And so it starts with us, and that's what we're doing right now. We're going through every single position, and every single we'll evaluate everything. And part of it, Arch, is we have to develop players in the building We have to make sure that we're doing that. So every player, we're getting the best version, they can get the best version of themselves. So we have to develop in the building, and then we'll have to look outside and look at the areas that we do have to enhance, whether it's free agency, whether it's the draft. We have to find those ways to continue to build that team to be more consistent.
Are you comfortable with the scheme that you guys ran defensively, or is that something that's under evaluation as well?
Yeah, we'll evaluate everything. You know, that's one of the coolest things. Y'all know that about Raheem, but he's such a humble person by nature. And so as we go through and have all these discussions, there's no defensiveness, and we're going to look at ways that we need to be more consistent in all areas. So we'll have all those discussions.
Within those discussions, Terry, I mean, it's a weird time in sport in general, not just the NFL. It's, you don't have results, people are getting fired left and right.
Yes.
What are the discussions within you, Raheem, Arthur, whoever may be involved in those about the statute of limitations, the leeway you get to find success in what time frame?
Yeah, again, that's a normal part of where you win enough games or don't win enough games. At this point, at the end of the season, you always have those discussions, and you go through everything and determine, you know, whether it's players, staff members, for everyone. We have all those discussions. That's just a normal part of the process.
Terry, you say, I understand your point about the cap allocation for the position, but one of the main benefits of having Penix on his rookie deal is saving the cap money. Considering that now you have a backup who's making up $20-something million, considering that, do you think there's been an inefficient use of the cap resources?
Well, you know, you go back, again, totally understand the question, but then you go back to that point when we made the decision on signing Kirk Cousins. You can't guarantee you're getting a rookie quarterback. You know, we're picking at 8, and so you can't guarantee you're going to get someone that's going to be ready to go in and play. And again, that's why we made that decision at that time. So all that said, this is where we are at this point. So what we have to do is look at areas that we can improve this team and work around whatever limitations we have.
Will the defense be one area of focus that you'll have of improving the roster?
Absolutely. Again, we're just getting into all those discussions, but that's definitely going to be an area of focus.
Anything in particular? I mean, I know the pass rush was kind of weak again this year. It's been a long-time problem around here.
Yeah, you know, with the pass rush, we started off and we were last in the league, first 9 games of the season, and then after the bye, significant jump in pass rush. We were second in the league and over that span following the bye, and you know, specifically with Arnold Ebiketie, he was top 5 in sacks down the stretch. Caden Ellis had an unbelievable year, and he led the league in pass rush rate. And so we have pressure players. We have to add to that. So we showed ability. We showed improvement in that area, but that's definitely needs to be an area that we continue to improve.
I wanted to address the kicking situation with you this year.
Yeah.
I addressed it with Rod. You know, Koo's drop-off was pretty precipitous from his previous production into this year. And I said to Rod that, you know, if that was any other player who had a 30% drop in production, they would be on the bench or cut. And Koo got to stick around. It cost you guys some games, in my opinion. Then you go out and get Riley Patterson, who struggled to make anything beyond, 40 yards.
Yep.
You know, I could sit here and tell you that might have cost you a playoff spot. I think fans would agree, but that's something we could part and parcel. But what is the situation now, and why did it take so long to move on from Koo? Or even if he was injured, why did it take so long to get him on IR? And then what was the process of finding Riley Patterson, a guy who clearly couldn't help you down the stretch when you needed him? Yeah,
Mark, I totally understand your frustration, and it's warranted. We missed 12 kicks, and we led the league in missed field goals, and it does. It's true. It affects games. It does. And in a game of inches, it really affects us. Once Koo was injured, we obviously put him on IR. And what it's our job to do is to make sure that we're fixing that this offseason. So we get into the season next year, and we're not having the same conversation. That's our job. With Koo, I know him personally. He feels the same frustration that we all feel, and he's going to work hard to get himself back to the standard that he's been at for the majority of his career. And us as a staff, we have to make sure, number one, we're supporting him, but also we're bringing in, at every position, we have to bring in competition and make sure that we're continuing to enhance those things. So I understand your frustration. It's warranted. We all have the same thing, and we have to fix that.
Frustration, I don't know if it's the right word. The process kind of is what I'm trying to understand is, again, why, like when the production wasn't there, if he was hurt, then he should have been on IR sooner. or there should have been a change made soon. Like, it was obvious to everyone to see that the production fall off. So, is it in your hands to make that decision to either get them on IR or go in a different direction, or is that up to you and Ra? You do it together? How does that work?
Yeah, we do it together. We discuss everything we do throughout the day. We discuss it together with the coaches, with whoever's involved with it. We discuss those things. It's about doing everything we can do to win football games. Again, when a player's injured, is this something we can manage? Does he need to be on IR? All those things. Those are always ongoing discussions. Understand the frustration, disappointment, all those things, because it affects wins and losses. So we have to get it fixed.
Speaking of joint conversations, how much were you a part of the decision to move on from Kirk Cousins to Michael Penix throughout the whole process?
Same thing. Those are discussions we have throughout the week as we get into Mondays and we close out that game, and then it's, okay, what do we need to do to win this next football game? And so we have all those discussions, and at the time that we did it, we believed at this time for us to be most effective and put us in position to win this football game, we have to make a change. So
This was your first year working with a whole new staff. What was that like?
I would say, look, at the end of the day, we didn't win enough games, Taryn, so we're all disappointed, and we have to look at a lot of different areas. But I would say we have a very collaborative staff. Raheem sets that tone in the right way, and I'm excited about attacking this offseason with Raheem and doing everything we can do to make whatever adjustments we need to make to get this team where it needs to be.
You have a franchise low of 4 draft picks this year, just 5. How does that just kind of put pressure on you guys, especially with not many draft picks, but still trying to rebuild?
Yeah, Allison, we can pick up some draft picks. So since we're picking at 15, so obviously we can move down and pick up more capital in the first or the second round or wherever that is. And so we'll have those discussions and determine. We just have to make sure that we're as effective, whether it's the draft, free agency, extensions, everything that we're doing, we have to be effective with each one of those moves so we can put this team in position to win.
Sorry, you guys added Judon and Simmons
Yep.
kind of late in the process in August. Were you happy with those acquisitions and what they produced this season?
Yeah, Mark. When you do that, when you add players at that point in their career, then we're looking at, for us to make those decisions, we're saying, okay, we're in position to win the division and to make a run in the playoffs. And the fact that we're not in the playoffs, then we're not happy with the results of those decisions. That's just natural. That's not saying anything against either one of those players specifically, Matt or Justin, or anything. I'm not saying anything negative about the coaching staff or anything, but when you make those decisions, we believe that's going to be a tipping point for us, and it wasn't.
Just with the results, how would you just assess Raheem Morris's first year as head coach with all the different things going on this season?
Yeah, look, Raheem's a special person. He's a special coach. I can sit here and talk about all the positives regarding Raheem. He said on Monday, and I said at the start of this press conference, we're all disappointed in the results of the season. So very, very excited to attack this offseason with Raheem and make sure we get it right.
We've heard from him and you that everything's under evaluation. What specifically have you guys kind of found out throughout that process? Like, hey, we're going to do this differently when we approach the draft or whatever it might be.
Yeah, we're just getting into it. The season ended. We've had a few days here, and so we're just really getting into those discussions. As the season ends, you have those exit meetings, and you go through all those things, but we really got to take our time and be thorough going through everything, so we're just not at that point yet.
Looking back at the season, is there anything you can pinpoint, like, okay, hindsight 2020 would have approached this maybe?
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of things when you look at it. We didn't get the result that we want in the season, but we really have to take our time and go through that and be thorough and make sure that we're looking at all the right areas.
Terry, given all of the expectations, obviously, for this year.
You're trying, Josh. You keep opening your mouth. They keep interrupting you. I'm joking, Maria. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Given obviously high expectations around this team, you signed Kirk Cousins, all these things, there's a lot of excitement, expectation to make the playoffs. How would you weigh heading into this offseason for you as a GM the challenges that lie ahead to making those changes to become a winning team?
Yeah, we have to do it, because there's so many areas that we feel good about, so many positives, but at the end of the day, there's one stat that matters, the wins and losses. So we have to figure out those specific things that we need to do differently, and it's critical. It's a critical offseason for all of us, for everyone, every individual that's a part of this business. And we understand that I can sit here and say whatever I want. The words really don't mean anything we have to speak with our results.
And I know you're in the infancy of these conversations, especially when it comes to the coaching staff, but how much do you anticipate there being any sort of change within the coaching?
We just have to, again, we're in those conversations. That's a normal part of the process where you win a lot or lose a lot. That's just a normal part of it, and we're right in the midst of those conversations.
Terry, to go back enough out of your draft
No.
picks.
Terry, to go back to,
Have you gotten enough out of your draft picks since you've been here?
We haven't won enough, right, Mark? So if you haven't won enough games, then I would say we have to look at everything that we're doing, whether it's the draft, whether it's free agency. Everything we're doing is not good enough if we haven't won enough. Now, I have a lot of confidence in our process. We assess everything as we go. We assess every single move, and we adjust the process as we need to. We're very reflective in that sense, and that's a normal, the after action, that's a normal part of it. So I have a lot of confidence in Kyle Smith runs that. He's our assistant GM, and Tombo is our college director. I have a lot of confidence in our process. We're very collaborative, the way we work with the coaches and analytics and all those things. We constantly look at everything. And that said, Mark, we haven't won enough games, so we have to improve in every area.
Terry, to go back to signing Kirk and that decision, was his health and his status coming off the Achilles injury more of a burden than you anticipated?
No, he was healthy, and I think you guys asked Kirk that question too whenever about the being benched, and we know that him being taken out, but he wasn't injured. He was healthy, so it was just the play just wasn't there.
When you evaluate his performance after the 6-3 start, and he was playing pretty well to that point, and then the drop off, how do you make sense of that? How that happened with a player like him who's had that track record for so long?
Again, it's tough, and that's a when we saw some really good things from him. And then it just dropped to a point to where, again, we had to make that change. So nobody's happy about that. We're all disappointed. Again, as we go through our off-season process, we'll look at everything.
So just to be clear, you don't think the Achilles injury played a part in his performance this season?
No, he was healthy.
Going through something like this with a player that suddenly just drops off like this, is there anything that you've learned maybe that you need to really look at or research more about a player before you sign him with such a big contract?
I think, yeah, Alice, just like everything, any transaction we make, every single thing that we do, we have to always look at it and be reflective, look at the reasons we made the decision, all the factors that were involved with them. We always have to look at everything, not just that decision, but whatever decision that we make.
Terry, looking ahead, Bijan touched the ball, I think, 300 and something now, it was 370 times.
Yeah.
1,900 yards, I mean, unbelievable. How much do you guys now, as you go into this offseason, start evaluating his workload and trying to balance him? I know Tyler is a tremendous backup, but how do you go about doing something like that to make sure he's that guy again for you next year?
Yeah, Bijan's unbelievable. Like you said, to touch the ball that many times, and we're really intentional with his during the week workload and the management of him, and he was fresh throughout the whole year. You talked about all those touches. He didn't put the ball on the ground once, and he's a special player. We already have those discussions of what his offseason looks like and how we manage him through the offseason, so he's continuing to develop, but also we're taking care of him. The way he takes care of his body is exceptional. He's just a special player, but an even better young man. But that's something that we're going to have to always continue to look at.
Terry, what do you make of Kyle Pitts' trajectory in the last 2 years?
Yeah, look, when you take a player that high in the draft, obviously you expect a certain level, and we understand Kyle had a really good rookie year, and he hadn't equaled or exceeded that production since then. And so there's no excuses we're making about it. And yet right now, at this point, just like any other player, Kyle has to do everything he can do as to make sure he's doing everything he can do this offseason to get the best version of himself. We have to make sure we're supporting him and helping him develop in those areas and make sure we're doing everything to get the best out of him so he can help this team win football games. That's what's most important right now.
Terry, I know you said you're comfortable with Kirk as a backup, but financially, you can't be comfortable with spending $100 million on a guy who doesn't see the field. I mean, especially in an environment where there's an allocation for a cap that you have to stay under.
Yep.
If you were investing in two businesses and you put 90% in one and 10% in the other, and the 90% fails, you can't be comfortable with that. Like, I understand you using the word because you knew what the money cost, but
right.
Saying you're comfortable with that sort of is counterintuitive.
Got it. So is there you asking a question, Mark?
So I think it's a fair point. I think that's very well done. If you're comfortable with it, I guess what I'm saying here is, how are you comfortable with leaving a cap allocation of that nature that doesn't give you production on the field?
So you're asking why when I say comfortable, that's just that was the plan initially. He was supposed to be a starter.
Right.
That was the plan, and we had to pivot. So I understand it's not ideal to have a backup taking up that much. I totally understand that. But where we have to make a decision, if you're going to release the player, keep the player, that's what I'm saying. So we're comfortable keeping him on the roster as opposed to releasing him.
Was there any validity to the reports that came out earlier that you guys had?
No.
No validity whatsoever?
And you're talking about the reports about releasing
Reports that say you
him.
were going to cut him.
Correct. Those are not valid. Correct.
Are you surprised, just in your 4 years, just how hard it's been to put together winning seasons as a GM? Like, did you think coming into it it'd be a little bit easier?
It's hard to, Allison, look, it's hard to win this league. We know that. It's challenging, and yet we have to figure it out. And it's that simple. We have to figure out how to put this team in position to win games. Our words don't mean anything. We have to speak with our results, and it's about putting in the work right now to get to that point.
Terry, as the playoff landscape kind of took shape, we got 4 teams from the NFC that are making first time or coming back in, and Green Bay, Tampa Bay, and Detroit returning. What can you learn from these playoff teams and how they were built and how they proceeded through the season?
Yeah, Larry, good question. And look, we have to study all those things. And as we get into, we start off internal, we study ourselves and figure out the plan and blueprints get to where we need to, but not only the teams that the overall studying the teams, but specific defenses and what they're doing and how effective they are and specific schemes, and we study all those things. So we'll study those teams that have been really effective and do our best to learn and help us make decisions here.
When you look at the young talent on the roster, do you feel like there's a greater sense of urgency to maximize those rookie contracts on them?
Yeah, that's a critical part of this. Look, and when as we go through meetings on our entire roster and all our players, a part of that is we're making decisions on players' futures in terms of whether you're under contract, not under contract. We're making all those decisions and figuring that out. But also we're going through what the development plans are, whether it's a older player and what's the maintenance plan, how we're going to get the most out of them, or whether it's a younger player and how we're going to develop this player and help them to continue to improve. So that's a critical part of it. Not just going out and bringing players in that are going to help us win, but also getting the most out of the players here and make sure we have the right development plan for them. So everything we do all this offseason is intentional, and it's helping us get closer to winning games.
Got time for one more?
Yeah, Terry, given that many of the fans may feel disappointed with the team's overall performance this season, what's your message to them heading into the 2025 season?
The message is we understand that that we let them down and we didn't do enough this year, and it's disappointing. We're all disappointed. We know they deserve better. But again, there's no words that I can say right now. It's all about the results, and that's what we have to speak with our results.
Yeah, I just had to ask him about the calendar moving forward.
Yeah.
You got the CFO coming up. Can you review some of the key points here as you move into the off season, January, February, and March, of course, April, big draft.
Kind of our calendar in terms of what.
Moving forward as you all are trying to get things going.
So right now, Led, we're focused on the roster. Like I said, we're having all our discussions, but we're focused on the roster. At the end of next week, we'll sit down and go through our 360 meetings on every player on the roster, and that's really the start of, okay, these are the areas, these are the plans for each specific player, but then also these are the specific needs at every position, and that's the start of it. So now as we get into free agency and get into the draft, and this is the first step in determining specifically what those needs are and where those areas that we need to focus in. So it's all internal right now, and we'll continue to progress through the offseason.
All right. Appreciate it, everyone.
Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all. Thank you, man.
Thanks, Terry.